At this time, Israel was experiencing economic prosperity under King Jeroboam II. Wealth was concentrated among the elite, but this prosperity came with rampant injustice. The poor were exploited. The rich lived in luxury. Corruption plagued religious and political systems. While the people performed religious rituals, their hearts were far from God. This is where Amos's fiery message comes in.
Forget about the unemployment rate or the inflation rate. Look at the poverty rate. In 2019, the poverty rate was 10.5% in the U.S. In 2020, it jumped to 11.4%. In 2021, it soared to 12.8%. You're talking about 3 to 3.5 million people every year over the last 3 years falling from the middle class into poverty. It should be the lead story every night. And this is before all the layoffs of 2022. Amazon, Tesla, Facebook, the tens of thousands of layoffs that have been dominating headlines this year aren't into the equation. I believe the poverty rate is going to eclipse 14% when we get the number in January or February of 2023. The poverty rate for 2022 will be above 14%.
I mean, this is totally amazing. The wealth of the richest Americans has exploded. I'm not even talking about the top 1%. I'm talking about the richest 1/10 of 1%. In the 1990s, most Americans' wealth grew at about the same pace. But look at what happened after 2010. The top 1/10 of 1% pulled ahead of the rest of the 1% and everyone else. 2010. Remember that year. Now, see what happens after 2018, in part because of Trump's tax cuts for the rich that went into effect at the start of that year. America's richest 1/10 of 1% are now worth more than the entire GDP of China. What do they do with that money? Well, they're not just shooting rockets into space or building hideous trucks. Billionaire political spending in presidential elections is also exploding. See what happens after the 2010 Citizens United ruling? 2010. Did you remember? And it keeps getting worse. In the last presidential election, just 300 billionaire families spent roughly $3 billion. Those families gave an average of $10 million each, roughly 100,000 times what an average donor gave. And the super rich are getting a big return on their investment. They're getting more tax cuts, deregulation, and a government that lets them get away with busting unions, exploiting workers, and monopolizing their markets while poisoning the environment. All so they can get even richer and accumulate even more power. So they can get even richer. And, well, you get it. But this vicious cycle is dangerous and unsustainable, both politically and economically. When so much of our economy is in relatively few hands, we will inevitably get to the point where consumers cannot buy all the goods and services the economy is capable of producing. This puts the entire economy at risk. It's also politically unstable because it's inherently divisive, pitting losers against winners and laying the groundwork for an authoritarian state where no one's future is secure, including the super rich. So we all have a stake in stopping this vicious cycle. To do this, we need to raise taxes on the rich, not to punish them, but to ensure that the system works for everyone. This means raising their income taxes and taxing their wealth. And we can establish public financing for federal elections, matching public dollars with small dollar donations in order to balance the power of super rich and corporate donors. Many states and cities already are doing this, and it works. Finally, we've got to undo Citizens United. One way to do that is for states to follow what Montana hopes to do. Take away the power of corporations to make political contributions in the first place. Look, it's time to get big money out of politics, for all our sakes.
Harshest rebuke to God's chosen people. Why? Because they knew God's law and still chose to rebel. Quote, displayed, "They sell the innocent for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals." Amos 2, verse 6. This accusation highlights Israel's greed and exploitation of the poor. 5.
Even people with jobs are living at the edge of financial viability. And there used to be the American dream that if you worked really hard and you saved money and you were a good employee, your life would be stable, that your life would get better and better. And this is just not the case anymore. Every single activity in the United States can be used for profit by the oligarchy, by tech companies, by financial companies. Every single aspect of our lives has been financialized. Increasingly, all of our businesses are conglomerates and monopolies. Supermarkets, big chain stores control prices. It's not even, the market idea of competition is not even operational anymore. When you have 3 major companies that control all of American agriculture, for instance, or when you have 3 major companies that control American food distribution in terms of grocery stores. So the average person lives in a time when his or her existence is just calculated as a series of profit-making and profit-taking possibilities for financial and highly capitalized monopolies. I feel like people's lives don't get better and better. One, if you don't have any savings, there is no social safety net. And this is something that Ronald Reagan actually started in the 1980s when he started dismantling all of the social safety nets like unemployment and social security payments, also investment in universities and public institutions. Once that process began, it meant that the average American worker would be more exposed to financial catastrophe at every single level. And one of the things that Reagan put into place was the fact that there should be nothing for free. In 1972, the University of California, where I teach, was free, 0 tuition. And Reagan thought that, he was governor of California then, he thought, no, we have to charge tuition because these young people are just ingrates, and if you give people things for free, then they won't work very hard, they won't be dynamic, they won't be productive. So we can't have anything for free, we can't have any kind of employment that is stable, we have to constantly destabilize the economy so that people are always striving, people are always working hard. It was a kind of motivation, because if you have a social safety net, you think people will have free time, people will feel safe, people will be less good at work, and we'll just have to starve American workers to make them work harder. And in fact, American productivity is going up, but American wages have been compressed or are going down. And so you have middle-class people who are once guaranteed a certain kind of social safety net. Even if they have employer insurance and a bad thing happens to them, a medical catastrophe can still bankrupt your company. If your car breaks down and you're a working class person, this means you don't go to work the next day, and then you could be fired. Once you're fired from work, you can't pay your rent. Once you can't pay your rent, your landlord kicks you out. There are no protections anymore.
Amos calls for repentance and emphasizes the need for justice. Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Amos 5, verse 24. He also warns the complacent wealthy that their luxury will not save them from God's judgment. Amos ends on a note of hope. God promises to restore the fallen house of David and bring blessings to his people. Quote displayed, "I will bring my people Israel back from exile. They will rebuild the ruined cities and live in them." Amos 9, verse 14.